Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Secretary, thank you for for being here. First off, I want to thank you for your service to America in this position. It is an enormous branch of the federal government, and I know it is an extreme challenge to manage all the moving parts, so thank you so much for your efforts there. I'd like to start with a couple of questions on antimicrobial resistance. I think this is a good time to talk about, given what we've seen, public health crisis, that the potential health crisis that we have with dealing with the coronavirus. As you know, the antimicrobial resistance letter that I and several of my Doc Caucus colleagues sent earlier this week, and you're aware, I hope that you're aware that that came from us, that this issue is critically important. And now, given the fact that we have more emerging threats to public health, it's going to be an important issue in the future. As you're aware, the letter focused on the marketplace challenges that are hindering the development of new antibiotics, and I want to get your thoughts along those lines. I also want you to comment on the challenges with the creation of new antibiotics to fight the superbugs. You know, how are we going to meet that demand? Can we do that domestically? I think we've seen some exposure here that so much of our pharmaceutical pipeline now comes from China, and we've seen what happens there. Can you speak a little bit to that very quickly? I've got another question, but if you could speak to that, I would appreciate it.
Absolutely. So scientifically and technically, we can and are making advances. So BARDA, which is funding development of antibiotics, we have 16 novel antibiotic projects. We've got 38 projects in CARB-X for a total of 54 in our current portfolio. We've dragged 3 new antibiotics across the finish line with FDA approval. The bigger challenge is not scientific, it's market-based. And effectively, it looks like we're facing a market failure problem, because we're asking companies and us to develop an antibiotic, but then to use it sparingly, which is not necessarily a sustainable business model. So I've asked my team, want to work with you all, how do we think about this maybe in the countermeasures approach of government backing, et cetera, for a market failure situation?
So with that in mind, would you be willing to continue to work with Congress to develop solutions to this problem?
Absolutely, it's vital that we do so.
Okay, Mr. Chairman, if I could enter in the letter that we
so ordered,
and also there's a recent op-ed that was in the Washington Times that highlights it. If I could enter that as well. Finally, Mr. Secretary, you know, in talking about eliminating ineffective programs, I believe the administration's budget does not propose reauthorizing the health professional opportunity grants, and correctly asserts that the program is duplicative of 47 other training programs that the federal government operates. In addition, it's been shown to be completely ineffective at improving work outcomes. In a recent long-term evaluation, analyzed impacts on participants using a 3-year randomized trial, and the evaluation confirmed that the program had no impact on employment or earnings and did not decrease the individual's public assistance use. Last year, every one of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle voted to expand this program by over 500%. It's baffling to me that we continue to fund ineffective programs that waste government taxpayer dollars. And really, if folks really cared about helping families in poverty, they would spend more time making sure the federal dollars go to those programs that actually work. Most importantly, the best way out of poverty is a job, and being prepared for those jobs, and we need to have the most effective training there. So with that, I will yield back, but thank you again.
Thank the gentleman. Let me recognize the gentleman from Michigan, Mr. Kildee.